I got an interesting story to say about your point on the arts. My cousin married very well, and she married a guy who became the #2 guy at Procter & Gamble. His education, art history. And in fact, companies like Procter & Gamble look to the liberal arts programs in order to bring in many of the folks that they bring up through the ranks. I'm kind of the outlier in this session. I don't represent a university or a community college. I work in the field of economic development, and we have, as was just mentioned, a global membership, but most of our members, frankly, are here in the United States. About 95% of our members are trying to create, retain, expand jobs, develop tax base, and enhance wealth. They have a variety of titles. They are the city, county, state economic developer. They run the Chamber of Commerce if that has the economic development function. They work for the public-private partnership that is trying to recruit businesses to a community. They work with entrepreneurs, and they try to retain the existing tax base. But at the end of the day, my focus is mostly, how do we retain and create jobs here in the 50 states. My second largest membership is Canada, so then I secondarily am trying to keep jobs in North America. And you'll find that biases some of the things that I'm about to say, because when I think about entrepreneurship, I'm trying to figure out how do we grow businesses here in the United States that are going to export something. Because at the end of the day, unless we're exporting, my view of the world is we are growing poor as a country as we ship our dollars out and we return some product in exchange for that, where the reverse model that I would prefer is that we are shipping a product or a service or a natural resource off of our shores and importing somebody else's dollars, and that makes us for a wealthier country. So you'll see that I see the world in very simplistic terms. I'm trying to connect the dots in a slightly different way, and part of it is to figure out how to use the assets of universities, community colleges, VOTEC programs, and how they can aid the economic development community, who in turn are trying to aid a business/entrepreneur in either starting up, growing, expanding. So I have several points that I want to make, and then I have a couple big ideas, supposedly, at the end of this presentation. The first thing is I would point out a couple interesting thoughts. One, the National Association of Seed and Venture Funds has just made a decision to move from Philadelphia to Lorain, Ohio. Where are they going to be housed? They're going to be housed at the Lorain Community College. This is, I think, for a community college, a big, big deal. That, in fact, this national association that is dealing in venture capital has decided that being aligned with a community college is a very important thing. And I see that as, for community colleges, an awfully big win. My alma mater, Ohio University, actually hosts a second entrepreneurship support organization, and they host the National Business Incubation Association. And so there are both direct and indirect relationships between universities and community colleges in the whole entrepreneurship area. My second kind of observation is that universities and community colleges are under a great deal of pressure, and let me put in quotation marks, public universities, not necessarily private universities, because of the impacts of this recession. I think that state legislatures who are partially funding universities and community colleges are looking for a lot more deliverables than they might have looked for in the past. And those deliverables are regional economic health, better quality workforce, entrepreneurship, new innovation to support manufacturing and new types of jobs within their communities. In the past, I would argue that universities, four-year institutions, were really only interested in economic development or economic health when there was some funding behind it, and the state economic development department or the chancellor said, well, you know, we've got a $3 million, $5 million, you name the million pot, and you can run around and do some interesting things in economic development. And their university faculty would get all excited, and they would maybe do something, generally with pretty mediocre results. I have discovered that, frankly, in my end of the world, that the community colleges, with some exceptions and with some hindrances, tend to be the better partner for our economic developers, because they do understand a fair amount of what their mission is in terms of regional economic health. One, train people, continue to train people, and train them some more. And second, understand who the client is. And the client is partially that trained person, but it's also the end employer. And when you have the relationship with the end employer, you're likely to train that person to do the right job. Not just train them for the sake of training them. My friend from Lehigh Valley and I talked about the workforce investment boards, and my frustration with them from time to time is they train people not necessarily for an end job. Community colleges tend to get that more right than other people in the education world. I think, as I noted, that the four-year institutions, how many minutes? Was that two or one? One. Okay, I'm going to skip this, and I'm going to go to my big three ideas. And this is what can universities do. And I'm going to raise a couple points, and I'm going to probably go a minute and a half over. So one, there is a lot of churn among small businesses in the United States. And let me give you some specifics about family-owned businesses. Family-owned businesses represent 50% of GDP in the United States. There are 17 million family businesses in the United States, and they represent 90% of all businesses. Let me give you two more points. 70% of all family businesses do not survive the transition from first generation to second generation. And 88% of those businesses don't survive the transition from second generation to third generation. Now, I'm jumping a couple causal leaps here, and one of them is some of them probably do get purchased before they go on to second generation or third generation, and I don't know what those statistics are. So, if I were a community college or if I were a university and I wanted to influence the entrepreneurship support system, one of the things I would do is I would help the transition process in these family-owned businesses. So I might have programs that would support existing family businesses, figure out how to sell, how to transfer within their family. I would help them figure out how to do ESOPs, employee stock ownership or share ownership programs, or figure out how to bring a new entrepreneur into that company over a period of time with the plans of taking over that company. And so we would call that in my business business retention. What are those techniques that you could use to do in entrepreneurship? So that's my one big idea. My second big idea is we need to get community colleges at the same level. These four guys probably represent institutions that are at the higher level of thinking in terms of entrepreneurship support at the community college level. I can guarantee you that they do not represent the average. These guys are the outliers. The average is much lower than where they are. We still have to fight with community college faculty over issues like tenure, and some of them act lethargic like their four-year partners do, and whereas many community colleges can operate at a much higher levels of speed than a typical four-year institution. And finally, I would like to see universities and community colleges focus many of their resources around the exportable product. If you go back to my comment at the very beginning. And here's what's important. And I would, by the way, to my friend from Broome County, I would add to your slide, before trade, manufacturing. Anybody in this room needs to read the new report by the Boston Consulting Group that says that within the next 5 years, we're going to be returning thousands and thousands of manufacturing jobs to the United States because Chinese wages are inflating at 17% a year. We are not that far off at being effectively competitive in a whole variety of areas in the manufacturing product. So with that, that concludes my thoughts and my three big ideas.